Welcome to the 531, where we debate a top 5 list on a particular subject, further discuss it down to a top 3, and then eventually settle on a top 1. Now after this beat, we'll get to today's subject.
Fans, welcome back for another week of the 531, where we take our top 5 list on a particular subject, vote it down to a top 3, and then debate that top 3 down to a top 1. And much like last week's list, this week, still on vacation, still deep in the trees, but I'm bringing you this list because me and Dave are dedicated as fuck.
Yeah.
And our list this week are the top 5 WWF matches. And Dave, this is almost a subject that's near and dear to our hearts because we grew up on the WWF, WWE, predominantly up in the Northeast.
100%, man. This was the first promotion I ever knew about. You know, I found out about NWA, AWA later, World Class, UWF Mid-South. I found out all that stuff later. But the first thing I ever saw was WWF. And my earliest memories of it, I always tell people this, is Bob Backlund putting a chicken wing on Big John Studd.
Nice. And that definitely gives you a time frame of when you were watching around, too.
Yeah.
For me, it was Hogan Warrior was probably the first big match I remember.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I remember Hogan and Big Boss Man in the blue cage.
Mm-hmm.
It was definitely that early Hogan era stuff.
Yeah.
A lot of my pay-per-view watching came from videotapes that I would rent from the store, so I can't really pinpoint the year. I vaguely remember the early glow on TV. That gave me a weird, sour view of women's wrestling at first.
Yeah, no, I hear you on that. I did not like Glow when I was a kid. 84 was definitely the year I was seriously into it. Like I said, early memories of Backlund Chicken Wing, but what really got me hooked, and I've said this before to people too, was Rowdy Piper breaking the coconut on Jimmy Snuka's head, and also Hulk Hogan winning the world title from Iron Sheik. That was all around the same year.
All right, yeah. Now, the first list I'm going to bring you this week is from my brother, who I finally remembered to get a list from. And he had Taker versus Shawn Michaels, Mania 25, Brett versus Owen, Mania 10. He had Taker versus Mankind from Hell in a Cell. He had Bayley versus Sasha from TakeOver Brooklyn. And he had Brett versus Shawn from Survivor Series 97.
What will be interesting on these lists is you will almost see, I'm pretty sure on everybody's list, someone's going to have a Bret Hart match.
Oh, yeah. It's going to be just off the top of my head from what I wrote down. It's like Bret Shawn, Bret Austin, Bret Owen.
Bret Bulldog.
It shows you kind of how he was in that sweet spot of a lot of our WWF fandom.
He really was. He was the best worker of the time, and I think if a lot of us fans that are probably hooked on wrestling and got the bug on wrestling and really enjoy the actual in-ring work, especially in this area, are all probably at some point got hooked on Bret Hart.
Yeah, the excellence of execution, the best there is, the best there was, the best there ever will be.
Preach.
There's good wrestlers still coming along, but for a while he definitely embodied that, where like him, Perfect, Shawn Michaels, those were kind of like 3 of the top-notch workers of the time.
100%. I'm going to go right into Scott's list just because you said that. He's got Bret Hart, Austin, WrestleMania 13, HBK Taker, Mania 25, Ricky Steamboat, Randy Savage, Mania 3, Austin Rock, Mania 17, and he's got the TLC match, Mania 17. Really nice variety by Scott here with all the technical wrestlers, but also seeing guys like Austin Rock in here and the spot shows like TLC and a little bit of that contrast where HBK was great in the ring, but, Taker, a great big man. So really nice list here by Scott.
Now, the next list I'm going to bring you from dedicated listener Jesse from New Hampshire. And he's got Rock versus Austin, WrestleMania 17. Hogan versus Warrior, WrestleMania 6. Savage versus Steamboat, WrestleMania 3. He's got the Triangle Ladder match from WrestleMania 2000. And then he has both Taker versus Shawn matches, so that'd be Manias 25 and 26.
100%. Good, solid list. You can tell the time period he was in with that Triangle 2000. I feel like that's probably his era of wrestling. Good shit.
Yeah, that's his golden era, probably just outside of our era. Mm-hmm. He's 10 years younger than me, so you could tell he's got a deep appreciation for the classics, but obviously still has that newer match in there as well.
I'm going to throw a list out here from our man Zach St. John. He's got the 92 Rumble on there. Without a doubt, that's, my opinion, the greatest Rumble of all time still. That's where Ric Flair wins the world title. Awesome performance. He's got Bret Hart and Steve Austin WrestleMania 13. He's got HBK versus Taker, but from Hell in a Cell. So we're going back to 97 there. The early stuff. We got Jericho versus HBK. No Mercy 2008. That's a ladder match. That is Jericho's best heel work ever. He punched Shawn Michaels' wife in the face, folks. I can't put this over enough. I've told the story, I think, on a podcast before. I think I overheard Jericho say this on his. That basically there was a show where he was in an elevator and a father and a kid. The kid wanted Jericho's autograph, and Jericho was so committed to being a heel, he wouldn't make eye contact. And he said it was bothering him because the father was going to him like, come on, why are you being a jerk? It's my son. And Jericho's like, he wouldn't do it because he was so committed at that time. He wanted to be hated by everybody, or at least someone in that crowd to think, no, everybody else might be bullshit, but that Jericho, he's an asshole, for real. I hate that guy.
And that's a dedication to kayfabe that you don't see much anymore. But the few guys that do actually do it get over huge. Like, I would say MJF is the best modern example.
100%.
You would assume that behind the scenes he's got to be a good guy. But no matter where he is, he makes you want to hate him.
I did want to say, I went off there a little bit, but Cole versus Johnny Gargano from NXT 25 was also on his list. We were there for that in Bridgeport. I think we went with different people, but that was phenomenal. You know, I wasn't planning on NXT being part of these lists, but I'm glad that they are in a way because NXT has really had some of the best modern wrestling of WWE when you look at it that way.
Yeah, I would say in the last 5 years, some of the best matches to come out of the WWE umbrella have to be NXT, NXT UK. The main roster gets some. Like, that Roman Reigns Usos match was up there. But NXT and what the takeovers have done, they put out some top-notch matches.
By the way, as we're recording this, I will tell people they haven't seen Walter versus Dragunov, NXT UK. My God, people. This is a violent match. Not a violent, like, hardcore match, like a violent All Japan, New Japan, dump you on your head, chop you as hard as you can, kick you in the face match. So there's a match to see. Recommending it. We don't always talk current stuff here. Check that out. That is something.
I saw Cornette put it over with high praise.
Yes.
And it's not too often you're going to get that kind of reaction from Cornette lately.
He wasn't the only one.
Not to say that he knows everything and that's telling you the level of match. But if Cornette's getting excited for it and he's of that old school opinion, I would say any of our fans would enjoy it since, I mean, would you say our fans tend to skew older school when we really get down to it?
Yeah, and even, I mean, hater like him, but Meltzer, who's watched a ton of wrestling, said it was one of the more violent matches he's ever seen, and he absolutely loved it. And so did a lot of guys at Wrestling Observer. I know Brian Alvarez, and I listened to a show where they all put it over too. So a lot of people that watch a lot of wrestling, that like wrestling, love this match.
Hey, Dave, the big question is, what did PW Insider say about it?
You know, I'll have to get back to you on that. I don't recall, you know.
I know, they're not returning our calls anymore.
I got to check my DMs, Joe. Hold on. We got a list from Tim Hartford. I'm going to segue into that. TLC, WrestleMania 2017. So that made the list twice. HBK versus Taker 2. I'm assuming that's 26. Savage versus Steamboat, Mania 3. Here's one. Mr. Perfect versus Bret Hart, SummerSlam 91, and Hart versus Austin, WrestleMania 13. So, like, we're going to see, I think, Hart versus Austin on a lot of these lists, maybe all of them. And, you know, we'll definitely see a few other Hart matches, but what was the other one we were talking about before? But, like, Hart versus Perfect, though. That's a nice one. I like that. WrestleMania 91. SummerSlam 91.
The next list I got up is Kevin Dignam from Rockin' Randy's Rockin' Wrestling Group, and he has Owen versus Brett, Mania 10. He's got Michaels versus Mankind. He thinks it's in your house. He's got the Rumble 92. He's got Hogan versus Rock, Mania 18. And he's got Austin versus Brett, Mania 13.
He is correct, by the way. It is In Your House, Mind Games in Philadelphia. Another good classic match worth checking out. Mick Foley considers that one of the best matches of his career.
Okay, wow.
So I guess I'll go ahead next here. I got a list here from my man Jake St. John, friend and poet of the show. He's got Brett versus Owen. I'm going to assume he means Mania 10, but he didn't specify. And again, here we go. Brett versus Steve Austin, I Quit match. Taker versus HBK, Hell in a Cell. Brett versus Bulldog. I'm going to assume that's 92 SummerSlam. And RVD.
Favorite of yours, if I'm not mistaken, right?
What's that? Brett and Bulldog? Oh, yeah. That's going to come out of this. I'm fucked. RVD.
A true testament to what the body can do on crack if pushed.
I mean, Bulldog's the real unsung hero of that match as far as I'm concerned. Yeah, you could do it straight laced like Brett did. But if you want to come in completely fucked up and still put on the performance of a lifetime, watch what Davey Boy does in that one. Clinic.
There's something you should know, Mr. Hitman. I smoke cracks.
I want to get out this last one. Jake did have RVD versus Cena. This is the one where the sign was in the crowd that says, if Cena wins, we riot.
I mean, that's a surprising list from somebody older, but, I mean, that event was something else, and it really was. They would have fucked up if they put Cena over there.
They really did, and it's interesting to know, I mean, like, all these other matches, 3 of them have involved Bret Hart, and the other one is HBK Taker. So he did go old school for the most part. It was just that RVD Cena match. I think this goes to show Jake is an ECW fan back in the day with Rob Van Dam. And if you look at that environment, I mean, that was an ECW crowd. Although it was a WWE event, I think that was ECW's one-night stand. At the end of the day, I mean, that was just an ECW crowd on a WWE platform. And, you know, it was definitely exciting.
I forgot about that kind of crossover because ECW was something big for people of our age. Just the matches they put on and some of the wild stunts they pulled. So that makes sense.
100%. Who you got, baby?
Next up, I got Shar Johnson, also from Rockin' Randy's Rockin' Wrestling Group. He had Hogan versus Andre, WrestleMania 3. He had Austin versus Brett, WrestleMania 13. Roberts and Rick Martel, the blindfold match.
Wow. Deep cut.
He had Mankind versus Taker, Hell in a Cell. And he had the 89 Rumble, switching it up a little from the 92 Rumble.
This guy likes deep cuts, man. Blindfold match was a lot of fun as a kid. I watched that. Good spectacle. Don't know about going back and watching that one. Like, I think I did one time. Really doesn't probably hold up. But nonetheless, very entertaining. Love those two.
It's a perfect example of WWE doing the storytelling aspect of wrestling good. And that was a time where they could get a big match out of a story like that.
No doubt. I'm going to go to my man Mike Flynn here. He's got Johnny Gargano versus Adam Cole, 2 out of 3 falls. Bret Hart versus Steve Austin, WrestleMania 13. HBK versus Taker, Mania 25. Johnny Gargano versus Ciampa, 2 out of 3 falls. And Pete Dunne versus Tyler Bate in the UK finals. Man, like I said, I'm glad we included NXT on this list because this is a great example of all those matches he just put on there. All of them classics.
Yeah, Tyler Bate versus Pete Dunne. That was what? TakeOver Chicago. 1, I believe. It might have been 2, but it was a banger of not only an NXT match, but showing what the NXT UK could do.
Yeah, I know the match. See, he wrote down UK finals, though, so that might be the one in UK, but I know the one you're talking about, and that's the one I think of, too, the one in Chicago. So, phenomenal match.
I definitely stepped on his toes on that list, but, I mean, it shows you the variety that they are bringing, and it's good to see.
And the one you're talking about in Chicago, Jim Ross actually did the commentary for that match.
Oh, wow.
He was brought in for that. It was definitely felt special.
100%. Now, I'm going to bring you my list next, because we're going to let big fan of the show, the man from the farm.
Yes.
AJ talked about taking a plow off from last week. It was real derogatory and shit. Randy, that's your boy. You and a couple guys in India aren't going to be saying AJ's right anymore.
No.
But
he's very wrong.
Right, me. I got Owen versus Brett. Hold on, I'm taking a curve here, so I don't I want to take a minute before I look down at my next choice.
Yeah, baby. Don't wreck that car.
I got Razor versus Shawn in the ladder match. I got the Rumble 92. I've got Steamboat versus Savage, WrestleMania 3. And for my final match, I've got Mankind Taker, Hell in a Cell. It's hard to dispute.
Oh, good list, my friend. I'm going to hit you with mine, and we're going to main event with Randy. Just to be fun here, I'm going to put Bret Hart, Austin, WrestleMania 13. This will be a little different. I'm going to throw a couple other matches out there to make this list. Bret Hart, Rowdy Piper, WrestleMania 8. Randy Savage, Ric Flair, WrestleMania 8.
I wanted to put that in for the build-up that it had. That was one of my favorite build-ups in history.
Overall, not one of the better WrestleMania, but those two matches made that Mania for me. Another fun one. Bret Hart, I believe it was the December in Your House. Oh, God. Might have been 95 against the British Bulldog. They were in Philadelphia. They ended up bleeding. So another fun match right there. So I am winging this one here. So we got the 3 Bret Hart matches, Savage, Flair. You know what? If you're going to put in some of the greatest WWF matches of all time, I guess I got to include Savage Steamboat as well, WrestleMania 3. So.
Yeah, solid list. Savage Steamboat is a hard one to leave out. If you're thinking about all these other matches you're going to let in, if you haven't let in Savage Steamboat, what are you doing? Yeah,
no, I mean, I could have definitely. I want to have a little variety on my list. At the end of the day, I mean, Zach put out a good one there with that Jericho HBK match. You know, most of my best WWF matches are either include Bret Hart or Shawn Michaels or some variation. It's really ironic, too, given the problems they had back in the 90s. But those two are, like, by far, along with Steamboat and Savage, like my favorite workers throughout the WWF history.
100%. And the last list we got you is from Randy Osgood. He's got Savage versus Steamboat, WrestleMania 3. Austin versus Hart, WrestleMania 13. Taker versus Michaels, WrestleMania 25. Brett versus Owen, WrestleMania 10. And for his last pick, he's got Michaels versus Razor Ramon, WrestleMania 10 ladder match.
Good, solid list by my man Randy. And as far as I'm concerned, Austin and Brett's got to go to the finals. They were on everybody's list that I saw, near everybody's list. So we got Austin, Brett making that list. And then, I don't know, man, HBK Taker, Mania 25?
Yeah, both matches have made it onto a few lists, but I think I saw 25 on a couple more.
Yeah, I would agree. And then I'm going to say Savage Steamboat, I think.
All right, so what are we playing with for a top 3 again?
Hart and Austin, WrestleMania 13. Savage Steamboat 3. Taker, HBK 25.
That's a good top 3. I'm almost feeling nervous having to pick which one we got to knock off first.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, man, I don't know. You know, the fact that Savage and Steamboat has stood the test of time, I kind of want to keep them in there. So I'm thinking maybe vote off Taker and HBK just because Austin and Brett made everybody's list.
That was going to be my pick as well, just because that Austin match was so big. And obviously we've put over how big Savage and Steamboat is, so it would feel real weird to boot it for Michaels and Taker. Taking nothing away from that match, but when you get down to these top 3s, a lot of the times it's you're putting big matches together, and obviously some aren't going to hold the places that others do, and Taker versus Michaels just ain't going to make it this week, folks.
They got to go. You ain't got to go home, but you got to get the hell out of here. As far as I'm concerned.
Said that a couple other times this week, but we won't get into that, folks.
That's right. All right, I am going to say my vote is, as much as I love the classic Steamboat Savage, that catch can, that wrestling, that back and forth, the chain, I'm going to go with HBK. I'm going to go with Bret Hart and Austin, Mania 13. I like the violence, a little bit of blood. The I Quit. It's good shit.
I gotta disagree with you, and I'm going WrestleMania 3.
Ooh.
Just because it's early on in the WrestleMania's development. And I'd say of the first 3 WrestleManias, would you call this the best quality match by that point?
Sure. I mean, it's definitely one of the better matches in WWF history. It's one of the best matches in history. All these matches are amazing.
And it stood the test of time, and that's why I would vote for it to go over. But I've got to agree with you that Brett and Austin It also happened at a WrestleMania, and it happened at a time when they kind of took WrestleMania beyond, like, to a next level. Like, when you go from WrestleMania 1 to 2, it was amazing that they put on a second one. But then you're getting down to what? It was 13 that Austin and Brett was at. And if you consider by that time what they were doing for business, how things were going to go to the next level with Austin, I think that's why Austin Brett has to win as much as I love Steamboat Savage.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I guess the fact that it was about to propel Austin's career is what makes you kind of lean towards it, too, a little bit. You know, so really hard to – it's kind of a pick 'em, you know, gun to my head. You know, ask me another day, I might change my mind. But today I'm going Brett and Austin. So that's it, folks.
All right, folks, you know what the music means. Thank you for joining us for another week of the 531. And as always, get a hold of us on Twitter. Get a hold of us on Facebook. You know where to find us. We're tearing it up on the All Everything Entertainment Podcast Network. We got a live show. You know where to find us. Come check our ass out, and we'll see you next week.
Get fucked.
Guys, thank you for listening to the 531 here on YouTube this week. If you like what you hear, you can always find us on Anchor FM, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Breaker, Overcast, Pocket Cast, Radio Public, and on the Apple Podcast where you can subscribe and also give us a 5-star rating. We appreciate you listening. We want your feedback, 531, and if you agree with us, if you disagree with us, we also want you to let us know. And let us know what your 531 would be. Come up with a top 5 and let us know, and we'll tell you why you're wrong. And in order for us to do that, please contact us on Twitter. We're at Fans Working. Facebook page, Working Fans Wrestling Pod. Email workingfanswrestlingpod@gmail.com. It's very important that you actually contact us on these platforms because we want this to be your interactive place to talk wrestling.